Near-death experience. I don't know many people that have had one. I've got a story about mine. I'm not going to go into too many details about how I got there and what the process was, because if you follow me and you've watched videos in the past, you'll know what that process was and how I got there. But the main reason I wanted to sort of tell a little bit of a story about it is because of the aspect of well-being in my life that really had made the most changes to me moving forward as a person, both physically and emotionally, and that is my spiritual well-being. So having a near-death experience really opened up an aspect of my mind and my well-being and my spirituality that I never thought existed, or I guess probably maybe had dismissed previously in my life. And it's one of those things, it's a very touchy subject. I mean, when we mention spirituality, I guess we all have our different rules and concepts about what spirituality is, where it comes from, how it exists, how you practice it. There's all different things, right? And you can say spirituality, and some people lump, religion, different types of religion into that spirituality, which is completely, that's an accurate fact. Like, religion is a part of spirituality. But I'm not talking about just religion in general. I'm just talking about overall spirituality, and I guess the rules of how we perceive what it is and how it works for us. And like, I thought to myself in previous times, before I went through some other experiences where I led to, me having a near-death experience, where I thought I was quite in touch with my spiritual side, but really I wasn't, and I got completely opened up to different ideas and concepts and things that just completely blew my mind. And the reason I want to talk about it, and I haven't so far, it's a really hard thing for me to talk about, because when I sort of tell a bit of this story, it's hard for me to get not emotional about it, because it was like one of the most defining moments of my life, and it's the only person I've really spoken to about this, and not in great detail with, is probably Courtney, and maybe a little bit with my personal coach that I've had in the past, and there's not really anybody else that I've spoken to about it. So you're getting this this story the first time through a video if you're a close friend or family member. But I feel it's really important for people, especially if you struggle with things in life, if you struggle with stress, if you struggle with anxiety, if you struggle with relationships, or whatever it is, something that might hold you back, whether you get held back by your own mindset, or you get held back by certain things in your life. It's one of those key things that I said just opened up so many possibilities for my life, but mainly because of the support I felt around spirituality, and I guess when I opened up to it, realizing how supported I was. So the story goes, I had a situation, and I won't go into great depth, but in an ICU bed, clinging to the last moments of, trying to keep in this physical world. And I remember just laying there, and for a period of time, just holding on to the side of the rail of the hospital bed. And I don't know how conscious I was in this moment, and this is part of the story that confused me for months and months and months before I even just, like, later down the track, started to explore my spirituality and figuring out even what that was, because this moment was such a confusing moment to me, and it could have been one or two things, which I'll run through right now, and either one could be completely true, and either one is completely objective. So I was laying there, and I remember just holding on to the side rail of the hospital bed. And the reason I was holding on to the side rail of the hospital bed, I was barely conscious, but I know that I was like clinging on to something. I was hanging on to something, because I was going through this experience where I just felt like there was this deep, dark hole that was kind of underneath me, and it was like swirling around, and it was like the darkest, blackest black that I've ever seen in my life. And it wasn't something that was like terrifying. I'm not talking about whether it was like a leaning on the edge of life, or hell, or heaven, or whatever that was. It was just this deep, dark hole, and it was just an unknown thing to me. I don't know what it was, but I know in the situation I just knew in my deep being that it was me clinging between one place and another place. One of those places being the physical place I was in, one of those places being not the physical place, meaning I'm pretty sure I was close to getting to end of life in that situation. And I remember clinging onto the side of the hospital bed and the rail, and just so many things running through my head. People, family members, friends, my son, everything that I could imagine at that time. I guess trying to grab onto something in the physical presence that I had to kind of stay there. Like, what was keeping me held on, gripping to that hospital bed and keeping me away from this big dark space that I didn't know what it was, and was absolutely terrifying. And as I was holding onto this hospital bed, I would look up to the side and I would have a couple of family members there every time. And those family members were family members that aren't alive now. They died years ago. And I would look up at them, and one of them in particular would look down at me and just go, you know, you got to hang on tight. You got to hang on tight here, but I'm letting you know, if you hang on tight, everything's going to be all right. And we just had this conversation over and over and over again. And I was very confused at why this person and another person was there, because I was like, and this is where I said it gets objective and knowing exactly what was going on. There was one of two things. It was my brain throwing chemicals my way because it knew my body was starting to shut down and I was in a lot of pain, and it was like, you know what, we're going to make this situation as comfortable as possible. Throwing out some chemicals. Might have been starting to hallucinate, but I started to feel a lot better, a lot more comfortable, and the pain started to go away. And it was a situation where I was like, is this actually happening? Am I hallucinating? Or are these people actually here to help me cling on to this bed to keep on this side of reality and not down to wherever that thing goes? And this is why it's it's a hard thing to talk about, because there's not anybody that you could ever talk to that would have been through a similar situation. Be rare too. Very rare. Very, very rare. And this is why it just, you know, for months on end after this experience happened, I just would lay there and sit there and think, you know, what the hell? Like, what is that? What was that? What is that? And I'm going to cut to the chase, because, you know, the story could just go on and on. But anyway, I had this, I wanted to call it this support network, right? At this moment in time. And, you know, there was I have worked through this a lot with, you know, coaches, psychologists, talking to Courtney, all that sort of stuff, going through all this sort of thing. And that particular moment, because there was a moment where I was like, I wanted to let go. I wanted to let go of the railing. I wanted to stop the pain of the breathing because of the situation I was in, whatever was happening with my lungs at the time, which was the thing that was pretty much just killing me at the time. And I was like, I felt this massive amount of guilt. Like, you know, I looked up at these people supporting me and I thought, you know, helping me hold on to the railing, whoever they were, I know who they were, but why they were there, who knows. And I thought, if I let go, I'm just like, I felt so guilty. There was a moment where I was like, I just wanted to let go. I just wanted to let go. I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop the pain. I wanted it all to stop. And then this, just for months afterward, had this guilt just running through my head, because I was like, you know, I've got a newborn baby at home. Courtney's at home by herself with his newborn baby. I haven't had a chance to spend time with my son, meet him, know who he is, raise him, all these things. And I felt like a moment of weakness because I just wanted to let go and give up. And I had a lot of guilt come out of that, which was a stupid feeling, and that's something that I worked through quite a bit. But for months and months and months, it bothered me, that whole situation where what actually happened. Was I hallucinating? who was this support? Why was this support network there, getting me to hold onto this railing and cling to what was my reality at the time? And this is where I get into the spirituality side of it. The weird part was I didn't pursue it myself. I had people come out of the woodwork that are close family members, friends, and I would include even my coach in this at the time, who I think just came into my life and helped me work through, business and mindset stuff, and help me on a way deeper level understand all these type of things. And cutting to the chase, what I've realized out of the situation and coming to a spiritual well-being is it's not just about meditation. It's not about believing in a God. It's not about knowing what happens to you after you die. It's not about any of those things. It's about knowing that you have a support network. When you dive deep into that spiritual place, through meditation, through mediumship, speaking to psychics and mediums, and this is the path that I went down. It's another thing that I explored about my well-being, was a spiritual well-being, and inadvertently I had people seek me out without knowing, that I ended up having conversations with in front of, that had told me, you've just tapped into something that most people don't tap into, which is there all the time, which is people that sit in another place that's not a reality that we don't know about, and they're there to support you. And and the thing that really kind of made me privy to that and really agree with that situation, rather being skeptical and being like, oh, that's all bullshit, that's all woo-woo, which, a lot of you people might think that, and this video might turn you into being like, oh, this guy's just talking shit, and I don't believe in any of that stuff, which is completely fine, and it's objective to me, it's objective to everybody, but this is just my story, this is my experience, and this is how it helped me. So tapping into that spiritual aspect was like, I've just tapped into a support network, which now has completely changed my vibration in life about how I carry myself, how I move into difficult things and tasks, when I get into bad situations, how I meditate, all that sort of stuff, is having this sense of knowing that these voices that have been in my head for a period of time, which are positive things like, you can do this, you can do that, things that I thought was maybe me motivating myself, actually probably turned out to be people that surround me that aren't in a physical sense. And that's a really hard thing to understand and trying to get across in a 10-minute video, but it's just me kind of telling the story about how I discovered my spiritual well-being and really tapping into that. And I tapped into that, like I said, through meditation, through talking to mediums. And because, like, if that's something you've never done and spoken to a medium or a psychic or whatever you want to call them, you figure out, they're part of this spiritual being, which is not so indifferent to like religion and the concepts around religion. It's about knowing that there's someone there to support you all the time, whether it's your God, whether it's a loved one that you think about all the time, and their voice comes into your head thinking, you can do this, don't worry, I'm always been here to support you. Like, is that you just telling yourself that, or is that somebody that is actually within your spiritual realm that's there to support you? And this is why it's taken me so long to make this video, because it sounds a little bit nuts, but the people that know, and the people that don't, I encourage you to explore your spiritual well-being in any way you can. And I guarantee you're going to get your mind blown by people that you thought are just like innocuous to your life path, and you meet somebody that tells you some shit that you're like, how the hell does that person know that about me, know that about my family member, know what that family member has said to me in my own head, and they're supporting me from a place that I didn't even know existed or even know where it is, and nobody does. So it's just me telling a bit of a story about how you can explore your spiritual well-being and just do it as best you can. Because like I said, figuring out that I've had this support network that is not a physical support network, and whether it was in a situation where it was near death or whether it's situations I move forward with in life now, every time I need help, I just feel supported. Like I feel like I can meditate and I can tap into somebody that's there, that's going to give me words of encouragement, it's going to give me words of criticism and words of advice. As crazy as that sounds, that's the experiences that I've had since I've opened myself up to that spiritually. And it's only because of the experience that I had that made me tap into it, because it was something that confused me deeply. And if there's something that confuses you deeply about the voices in your head and things that happen to you that you think, that's another person I know that's not alive that's telling me these things, start to tap into it. Start to figure it out. See a medium, talk to a psychic, do deep meditation, YouTube it, figure it out, because like I said, it's one of the things that majorly changed my vibration for happiness in life, and felt like I've been supported 24 hours a day, even though I was completely alone. And that's one of the key things with this. Mental health struggles, whatever it is, sometimes you feel alone, but when you tap into this, you don't feel so alone.